What's up, fellas? Let's wake up. Let's get our freaking minds right for Wake Up Mintzy. I'm fired up to be here on this Wednesday morning, and we're going to be joined by SJ Tuohy in a second. And as always, we're chugging some Stella Blue coffee. We're bringing some damn high energy. I got called out for having lower energy yesterday. That's unacceptable. That's not what this show is about. So we're going to get on here. We're going to turn it up, and we're going to raise some freaking hell this morning, boys. And now, the only way to start that, let's chug some Stella Blue coffee, and let's have a hell of a day. As always, Wake Up Mintzy, presented by Dude Wipes, cleaning up all our messes. They're taking over the toilet paper world. Amazon, Walmart, Target, nationwide. One use of Dude Wipes will change your life. It's a revolution. Bunch of stuff to get into from last night. We'll start with the MLB All-Star Game. Shohei Ohtani, good at baseball. I know that's not news necessarily to anybody. He had a 3-run, just nuclear bomb to go up 3-0. But the American League wins their 10th out of 11. Scoring, they bounce back with 3 runs right after the Ohtani 3-run bomb, and they end up winning 5-3. Some good scenes. Paul Skeens pitched a scoreless first inning. Him and Livy Dunn are like the new first couple of sports. The American League's now won 10 out of 11 All-Star games, but pretty good product last night, I got to say. It was a good game. You don't usually see, when Ohtani hit the 3-run homer, I thought the National League was in good shape, but American League bounced back immediately, and they win their 10th out of 11, which is wild to see how much they've dominated that All-Star game. Some other fun stuff from last night. Hope y'all checked out the Home Run Derby stream. Jerry Bonds, it was a huge success. They hit 764 homers in 6 hours. Some awesome showings. Ebo, Max, Brandon Walker out there hitting nukes. I see a lot of guys that are kind of sore this morning, but it was an incredible stream. And shout out to all those guys just out there hitting bombs. I saw Brandon Walker walking in this morning. He looked a little beat up. A lot of people are, I'm sure, after hitting that much. I guess your body doesn't do that motion as much, but thought it was a really fun stream. Jerry After Dark, a great product, and love seeing success for my boys. So good stuff with that. One other quick thing to touch on, we're to be joined by SJ Tuohy. Going to keep the poker stuff a little quicker, but down to 3 in the World Series of Poker main event. My guy Flo's got 8th. Jonathan Tamayo, a guy I've grinded with forever, is in the top 3. He made a very controversial fold with Queens before the final table, and then ended up going on a big run, and there are 3 left, and he's second chip. So that final 3 is today. And with that, we're going to be joined by SJ Tuohy, head of the Kingdom NIL, Central Florida's NIL fund. Also kind of known as family for the Blindside movie, and a great Ole Miss family as well, and a good friend of mine. So with that, SJ, what's up? How you doing this morning? Let's raise some hell.
Man, Mintzy, good morning, Mintzy. Good morning.
Good morning.
I was being held accountable for your lack of energy yesterday. I mean, it wasn't my fault.
We're turning it. We're turning this back up. That's for damn sure. Right, that's what Wake Up Mintzy's about, and I may be struggling to shave a little bit here, but we're gonna do it. So SJ, a lot of stuff going on with you. First of all, I know a lot of the Stoolies know you are. You are a big Stoolie. You've been on Barstool Radio. Had a lot of fun with you and Central Florida head coach Gus Malzahn and Johnny Dawkins up here a few weeks ago. You're the head of the Kingdom NIL, which is the NIL for Central Florida. And that is a wild new world you're living in. I know you were just back from Big 12 Media Days in Vegas. Hey, I missed you there because I did crappy in the main event. But a lot of stuff going on at Central Florida, getting ready for the season. We'll get to it, but first of all, just what's it like? You were in athletic administration, I believe, at SMU, Arkansas, Liberty, then Central Florida, and then you switched over to the NIL world. Correct.
Yeah, I mean it's a crazy new thing, right? I think the big buzzword you hear is just the Wild Wild West, and I would kind of push back against that. I think anyone that says it's the Wild Wild West typically was probably part of the problem of making it the Wild Wild West. So we're trying to do our best to come in and clean it up and provide structured contracts and financial literacy and things that are, part of this new age of college football. I mean, it's not the game that you and I grew up with watching and loving, but it's evolved, and we've got to adapt to make the best of it. So Central Florida, second year in the Big 12. Obviously, NIL world, big thing. Y'all got KJ Jefferson, transferred from Arkansas, and absolutely. I know there's a lot of enthusiasm about that. Year 2, the Big 12. Obviously, Central Florida is one of the top G5 programs forever. Last year I felt like y'all had just an insanely tough road schedule. Y'all were at y'all had to go to Boise, Kansas State. I mean, y'all were everywhere. How's life in the Big 12 going so far? Yeah, I think good, man. This is the first time since I've been at UCF. Maybe our first year with Dylan Gabriel, who's quarterback, who's a super talented player and good person. You know, when you had him, you felt like we can win every game. Like whoever we played, we may not win them all, but we had a chance to win them all. You know, and with Plumlee the last couple of years, that was probably still the case, but he's banged up and we couldn't ever all help on the same page. So going to this year, I think it's the first time, at least since I've been associated with it, you feel like, man, we can beat all these teams. Now, will we? Probably not. It's hard to win all the games in college football. It's really, really hard. But I like the guys that we have, and compared to the guys on our schedule. So I'm excited about seeing it play out. So all I can ask for is a chance.
So Big 12, obviously a lot of changes. Oklahoma and Texas gone, but still a super fun league. I know y'all gonna be traveling a good bit again, but kind of feels pretty wide open coming into it. Houston's in their second year now. Obviously, y'all came in with Cincinnati as well. Now you got Arizona and Arizona State in this thing.
Yep.
I mean, Colorado's in it. I mean, how crazy was Big 12 Media Days? What's going on?
Crazy. I was talking to Scott Draper, who's kind of our head of football in the Big 12, and our commissioner, Brent Yormack, does a great job. And he made a comment, said that we're the deepest conference in college football, and that he got some flack for it. He's not wrong in the sense that there are 10 teams of the 16 in the Big 12 that if we're holding the trophy up at the end of the year, you go, that's not surprising. I mean, tons of teams could win the conference. So it's truly an every week matters type thing, and we'll see how it plays out at the end of the year. But, you know, are we top to bottom, the deepest league? I don't know that that's exactly what he meant. I think he meant that we're deep because there's 1 through 12 that could beat anybody and make a run and win it. So it should be a fun year.
So you just did the Big 12 Media Days in Vegas. Wild place to have the media days. It sounds like
awesome. That's our league, though, man. That's the Big 12. Like, it was so different than SC Media Days I've been to in the past with Arkansas or Chad. I mean, it was, I don't want to say it was laid back because it was all over the place, but it was fun. It was energetic. You got Friday Beers guys there. You got the WWE guys there. And you got the World Series of Poker going. The draft happening. It was fitting for the brand that we have, the Coast to Coast League.
Hell yeah. Well, what's it like? Obviously, I mean, I feel a little weird asking about it, but Deion, Colorado coming in, obviously that brings a lot of hype.
Yeah.
You know, have you got to hang out with the Coach Prime any?
You know, not Coach Prime as much. Deion Jr., his oldest, played football with me at SMU for a time. We barely he ended up hanging up his last season, and I came during his last season, so we were there for maybe 6 months together. We always got along. I joked that I was so bad because they gave me his number and told me, don't worry, you'll never go on the field with him at the same time. Like, you're the terrible special teams guy. So we were both 21, and we always got along. We talked for a long time out there. He's a really, really, really good dude. I've always liked Shador, talking to him too, you know, being around. So I think I hope they win. It's great for our league. I mean, I hope they lose to us week 4 badly, but I genuinely cheer for him. And, you know, he's a disruptor, but that's, again, fitting for our league. And, yeah, I think he's trying to do it a different way, which always is tough. And speaking of tough, Mintzy, I want to tell you, I just got a Gus Malzahn text. This is not an exaggeration. Okay, on the thing here. Tell Mintzy I'm disappointed in his effort. I was bragging to my friends about him, and he laid a golden egg.
Oh, come on!
I think he's talking about World Series of Poker, buddy.
Oh yeah, I did. Well, whatever.
Oh,
whatever. Yeah, dude, I get 93rd out of 20,000 people in a tournament right before it. And like, whatever. Anyway, I can't defend myself. I got the crap kicked out of me in the main. It is what it is. But what's up, Coach Gus? Going to try to get him on here before the season as well. Anyway, so much change. The winds of change in the Big 12 are everywhere. Y'all came in. So Texas and Oklahoma gone. Y'all came in last year. It was y'all, Cincinnati, BYU, and Houston came in. Yep. Then this year, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah come in. I mean, this league's coast to coast. It's nuts. I guess Utah, I mean, obviously you can only say so much. Utah probably the favorite going in, but, I mean, who knows?
I think betting Utah's the favorite going in, but I would be stunned, you know, week 2 or 3 if there's not an interesting reassessment of who's played good and what's out there in the league. It's going to be a lot about what quarterback plays the best and who stays healthy. Utah's got Cam Rising. We like KJ. Everyone likes their quarterback. Colorado likes Shador. Kansas State likes their guy. He's really good. So which of those guys is healthy and who's playing the best? We have a league with a lot of really good players. So who's playing late? You know, if your quarterback's healthy week 10, then you probably got a chance to win the league.
Yeah, you mentioned Kansas State. A lot of hype on Avery Johnson. He's like 25 to 1 to win the Heisman. Will Howard left to go to Ohio State, but Kansas State's super fired up about him and, the program they have. I mean, every year. They're one of the most consistent programs in the country. But I can't wait to just see what happens to this league. What, as far as y'all's schedule goes, what big home games y'all got?
Man, a really good home slate for us. Probably the best we've had in school history. Obviously, having those teams in the Big 12 come through. So, Colorado at home, week 4 will be an electric game here for us. We start with New Hampshire and St. Lucie State. So we'll get into Colorado. And then, having Utah come late in the season, like the Black Friday, having Utah at home, that could be hopefully for a chance for some implications down the line. So those are probably the two you're most excited about is, at least for me, Utah and Colorado, but also it depends how the season goes. I mean, every one of those games between those two could be huge, huge, huge as long as we put ourselves in a competitive position.
Well, I love the optimism. I was a big fan from John Rice Plumlee, who played quarterback for y'all the last couple of years, Ole Miss days. Very talented. He's trying to make the Steelers, but he just got banged up a lot. And getting KJ Jefferson there, I know KJ didn't have his best year last year at Arkansas, but I feel like a lot of that was they had a bad O-line. I didn't love the play calling, and he was banged up.
You look at stats, like his worst year is better than a lot of guys' good years. I mean, he had good ones. Like, it's hard to go beat Florida with a losing team in the swamp, no matter what. And he did that. So the kid can play. I recruited him at Arkansas 5 years ago when I was there with Chad Morris. And Chad always viewed KJ as a guy, like, if we can just get him on the field, he'll save all of our jobs. He's a job saver. I mean, he literally referred to it as that. And we kind of struggled finding a quarterback our first year there, and so you're recruiting KJ. And, man, if we can just get him ready. And then sure enough, the year after we left, they brought in Felipe Franks. And then when KJ's turn took over, he was a job saver. I mean, the kid can play. So I think we hit on it, just couldn't get there fast enough. So I was pumped to get a chance to recruit him again with Coach Malzahn and get him here. I think that the sky's the limit now. Again, you got to go win the games, you got to go play the games, you got to go execute. But he's got a chance, and that's in college football about as good as you can do in July.
Yeah, I'm just always – I know KJ's a Mississippi guy, and, definitely always had –
South Panola, Mintzy. Not even North Panola. South Panola. I mean, North Panola.
Yeah, he wasn't South Panola. He wasn't the University of South Panola. But he always – growing up by Ole Miss, he always turned it up for the Ole Miss games, we'll say. And a few years ago – the 53-52 game in Oxford that Ole Miss won in overtime. Ole Miss had a top 20, top 25 defense that year, and that was the only game that the defense really fell apart. And I guess I always have like a lasting memory of how well KJ played that game. And then I was at the LSU game.
Yeah, he took that Ole Miss not recruiting him as hard, I think, personally, early on. I mean, they had some good quarterbacks at the time. I forget how it lined up with Tamu and those guys, but, man, he definitely always had that one circled at Arkansas. Yeah,
I thought there was a chance he'd end up at Mississippi State, honestly, over that. But I'm glad he went to Central Florida. He's not playing for the Bulldogs. Well, got a lot of fun stuff. You've got like a treasure trove of life experience stuff. You've worked for some just unbelievable characters as coaches. Obviously, Gus Malzahn, Hugh Freeze, Chad Morris. Everybody obviously knows your story growing up in Memphis with the Blind Side and all that. But I want to hear, whatever you could tell on this. One or two of your favorite Hugh Freeze stories, because he's just an all-time, character. You always say the thing you always say about Hugh Freeze that I agree with: the man wins no matter where he goes. I mean, he wins a women's basketball state championship at high school, crushed it at high school, won it. Goes 1 year at Arkansas State, tears up the Sun Belt, goes to Ole Miss, which hadn't been winning it forever. Obviously, a lot of things happened that era, but beats Bama twice. Has a great run there, has to rebuild, wins at Liberty. Now is his second year at Auburn. I know last year should have beaten Bama, but I just feel like you've seen a lot of stuff with him, and I'm curious to hear one or two funny stories.
Yeah, look, I'll preface, I love Coach Freeze. Coach Freeze baptized me. He's a family friend of ours. I pull for him all the time. He's a different character to work for, to play for, to be around. And like you said, the dude's going to win. No matter what, he will win. On 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 4, he's probably the best maybe ever to do it in college football. I mean, he's an unbelievable in-the-moment play caller. He can isolate a matchup better and faster than anyone I've been around. So there's a lot of good game stories. I think I'd say the two stories. One that stands out off the field is we would get tropical smoothie a lot for the team. We'd cater it for him. And he liked the smoothie. It was called the Sunrise Sunset. I think it was or Wake Up, something like that. and it was a smoothie that had orange juice in it and whatever, fruit, this and that. And so I give it to the team. I get him his smoothie. And the first time I did it, he didn't. Coach Freeze never yells at you. He kind of like makes you yell at yourself a little bit. He's like, SJ, I like apple juice. I don't like orange juice in these smoothies. So, okay, well, I'll get it. My bad. I'm early here to start the opposite. I'll get it right. And so I go back to chocolate smoothie, next couple of days we cater to the team and say, hey, in this one sunrise sunset smoothie, can I get apple juice instead of orange juice? And they're like, we don't even have apple juice. I was like, well, how has he been having this with apple juice? I don't know what to do. I'm kind of panicking. I get a Sharpie and just write sub AJ on that smoothie instead of but they just put the orange juice in like normal.
But he didn't know.
Takes a big old sip of it and is like, this is how a smoothie should actually, this is the way smoothie should taste. And I mean, for a year, like I did this. And I think I got a call from the ops guy, CJ Holden, who's now at Tennessee. He does a great job, super young guy in our industry. It's going to kill it. And he called me when I left to come to UCF, and I was like, man, how are you getting apple juice in these smoothies? I'm like, you just write sub AJ on the smoothie, buddy, and like you're good to go. But Coach Freeze has such a process, right? So as long as he thinks he's getting that, he's good to go. But I mean, he's such an anomaly. I mean, we went to Virginia Tech and beat Liberty. Excuse me, and beat Virginia Tech. When we were
I was on. I just, truth be told, Big Cat and I both on Liberty plus 16 and money line in that. Because Hugh Freeze wins. Hugh Freeze not afraid to win a big game as an underdog.
Golly, man. And he looked at me before the game, and I don't know if he would remember this. And they were not like Virginia Tech of old, but I promise you, if you gave Coach Freeze their team and played our team, we'd win by 30. I mean, they were more talented in the setup. And it was COVID, so it wasn't a crazy, crazy hard place to play. And he looked at me before the game, and he's like, I mean, don't be surprised when we win it. Like, don't act surprised. I'm like, okay, all right, Coach, I got you. And he's like, no, seriously, like, don't go crazy and do some big, make an ass of yourself. Like, we're going to win the game. I'm like, all right, Coach, I got you. We're 16-point dogs on the road at Virginia Tech with Hendon Hooker, playing quarterback. And the game was over, and it wasn't even like a self. He looked at me and was like, I told you so. Like, you idiot. I mean, and that was him. I mean, he had such a confidence all the time that he was in one game. So I liked working for him. We were 10-1, and we missed a 36-yard field goal to beat NC State to be undefeated at Liberty. And I have no doubt of pride in saying Auburn. That's what he does.
Yeah, my thing with Coach Freeze. Okay, and look, I'll say this. Shout out to him. He's a huge reason I actually went back and finished my degree at Ole Miss. Because if you think it wasn't a coincidence that I went back when Ole Miss was good in 2014 and 15, then you don't know me. That definitely was a factor when I decided to go back. I was like, oh, these are going to be great years with Freeze. Doubt. But I would have asked, so he's the best. Like, there's a few coaches like this, but he may be the best underdog coach I've ever seen. I mean, like, I look back at Ole Miss. He beats Bama. He wins all big games. You see that at Liberty. But then, like, what he's not as good at is what you see when Auburn loses to New Mexico State and Ole Miss loses to Memphis. Like, what is he like? How does he get them so up for like big games as an underdog, but then sometimes as a favorite, maybe you don't get the best effort? I don't get it.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think he is as good as he is focused, and when he's focused, there's probably not a better coach in the country. I can't speak to this much because we didn't lose any against Liberty. We were 10-1 the 1 year I worked for him, and truthfully, we blew out everybody we were supposed to. But I do think he was so locked in that year, he was focused that there wasn't a lapse for that. I could see that maybe haven't been the case in some of those games, but he's the best probably motivator, like pregame speech guy that I've ever heard. And Chad Morris was really, really, really good at it. I mean, like really good. Gus is more businesslike. He doesn't talk a long time. He gets the guys kind of fired in roles. I mean, Hugh, like Coach would go into these stories and rants, and you'd be like, oh my God, I'm gonna kill. Like, I'll kill whoever right now. Like, what do I got to do? So I think maybe, for those big games, he knows it, and he can pull the right strings at the right times. And Coach Freeze's number one gift to me is he has an unbelievable ability to get you to believe something, in terms of if you're playing golf and you're his partner and, you're like, I can't hit this 7-iron draw, 1-7. I mean, you'll line that ball up going, I can hit this because he convinced you that you can. So I think maybe he just pulls those strings in those big games and it knows that he can't pull them all the time, so you got to be selective, and maybe there's a lapse there. But thankfully, when I worked for him, we didn't have that, so I can candidly say I got no idea. You got to ask him yourself, Mintzy, because we were 10-1. So
I'd love to. I'm sure he's all time though. Like, there's no doubt. I'm curious to see what happens at Auburn second year. I know they got a quarterback from Little Rock, a freshman they're super excited about. I was surprised they didn't get a transfer portal guy. Well, I want to ask about working for Gus Malzahn, too, because you're working with literally two of the, Freeze and Malzahn, like two of the, Southern character, like innovative coaches, both outward big Christians, too, which I love.
Yeah.
And Gus, going back to Springdale, Arkansas, when he had Mitch Mustaine and all those guys, and, you saw – he was the start of the Wildcat with Felix Jones and McFadden at Arkansas when he was there as the OC. He wins the national title as an OC with Cam Newton. Almost wins the national. Really should have in 2013 at Auburn. They kind of blew. I don't know. I guess because he's calling me out for the World Series. I don't want to say they blew that game.
Get him back.
Yeah, I don't want to say they blew that game, but they definitely were up 24-3 and were dominating that game and ended up losing it with 13 seconds left when they didn't win it in 2013. And obviously, he had a great career at Auburn. I've never seen someone. As someone that has had employment issues and all the stuff that's happened with me. The stuff Gus Malzahn dealt with at Auburn was the craziest thing I've ever seen. It was
insane
every year.
Insane.
And did it all. He always gave Bama problems. They never really were bad. I don't know. They were a very volatile program, but he had a heck of a career there. And I don't know.
To have the career he had during the time that Nick Saban was in his career is maybe the most impressive thing in sports. To be that successful at a place where Alabama was at their peak. And he was, 6 points away from having an all-time career win record versus Nick Saban. It doesn't happen. So I think he's done more for college football than maybe any person that's coached in the last 40 years in terms of the way he innovated offense, the way he does things. Even like during COVID, everyone looked at Auburn first. Like, what's Gus doing? He's always on the cutting edge of everything, which is why he's so good. Is he's the only person I've ever been around that can keep his traditional core values and beliefs and still mold them to fit and adapt to new stuff, NIL that's happening. Gus is the number one NIL guy in the country in terms of like what he does for us. If I'm telling him to play golf with someone tomorrow, he's doing it at 7 a.m. If I'm telling him we got to tweet this, he's doing that right away. If I'm telling him we got to put the QR codes in the back of the jersey, he wants to be the front edge of everything, but still be this traditional high school football coach, and that's a lot of coaches think they can do one, but or both, but they can only do one, and he kind of pulls it off.
No, there's a lot to be said for that because you're seeing, this new world. A lot of old school coaches aren't adjusting well and they're getting phased out. And it's kind of one of those things that you either adapt with the times you get left behind. It is what it is. And he has innovated to that well. And then, look back at his career, just the innovative offense stuff. And, at its core, he literally would run like old school, like veer football, but just out of the shot. But out of the shotgun in space. No, but it was fascinating because, back in the 30s and 40s, everybody's got bunched up running backs and runner center. But he took the veer to the shotgun with the receivers spread out to having lanes all over the field. And, that changed football, literally.
Freeze did a lot of that, too, with the RPO stuff. But, he built off Gus's stuff. Shiloh Christian in 20, I don't even mess my year up, 7, 8, whatever year it was. Gus said, okay, we're going to do 2-minute offense the whole time. Like, that's our plan. Like, we're not big enough, we're not fast enough, we're going to be the 2-minute team. And, college coaches were flying in across the country to be like, how are you doing this? So, when he went to Arkansas that first year with McFadden, and they were 10-3, 10-2, and then lost a bowl game.
Yeah, won that LSU game in overtime that was crazy end of the year in 07.
Exactly. And he also told us that they had the number one offense in the country, 2 years. Last year, people at UCF are pissed about the offense. They're not good enough. No, we're top 10 in the country in yards. Like, on down years, he's top 10 in the country with a backup quarterback. So I think in terms of offense, he and Freeze are very different, and Chad and Sam, like guys I've been around, like he does it differently. He isn't about matchups, but he has an ability to get looks that he wants really, really well. Now, can we execute against those looks? I don't know, but he knows if we can get into certain things, and I think it's almost like, I don't say too smart, but on the sideline, like he'll know before the play, like, oh no, why did we mess it? We haven't snapped the ball yet. You snap the ball and it's like 4-yard loss. And he's like, I called that play. I'm an idiot. I'm like, we haven't even run the play yet. Or vice versa. He'll turn and be like, oh my God, we're going to score. Please don't mess up. We're going to score. And you look at some guy right street down the field wide open. So he's really good at it. Hopefully he gets back in the zone this year, calling plays and getting back to the old Gus.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me to see how much college football changed. And he was at the forefront of the mobile quarterback thing too.
Oh yeah.
Because like back in the day, you just had all these pocket passers, and then you saw what he did with Cam and Nick Marshall and all the guys he's had. I mean, going through John Rice Plumlee and now KJ. Like now, like you don't see quarterback. Like I'm not saying quarterbacks have to be like elite runners now, but you have to be able to move. You don't see these statue pocket passers anymore. And I feel like he's, a big part of that. And really figured out how hard it is to account for quarterbacks that can run, basically.
No doubt. And I mean, I think because he's figured out that he's a numbers guy. He's a whole high school freaking teacher. So he goes, all right, if I got 6 versus 5 and I got a quarterback that can run, someone's got to defend him. And it changes the numbers and how you stack the boxes and the counts you can have. The quarterback can move it at all. So you're right. I mean, typically you think pro-style quarterback now, it's almost like a cop-out. Someone saying you can't run, so he's a pro-style. And it's developed. So I think that those guys, when they get to the NFL, it's easier to fit that mold now. Like, hey, I'll take off less with my feet, but to even have the ability in the NFL now is important. I mean, it's less than college. You're not running as many RPOs.
Yeah, but I mean, like the Eagles do. I mean, some teams do.
Yeah, but even guys like Josh Allen, who I guess they're running a lot of read option stuff, but you want guys that can pull it and get you 6 yards if you miss on a blitz.
Yeah. Well, okay. So you work for Chad Morris, who. I mean, I feel like people forget, obviously it didn't work out for him at Arkansas, but he was also an awesome, innovative mind too, especially going back to his Clemson, especially his Clemson OC days.
Unbelievable. Like an unbelievable offensive mind. It hadn't worked out well for him last couple years. He got super unlucky, but even like when he was in South Florida last year, was it last year? Yeah, last year. And we got his notes, after we played them, because he and Gus are buddies, and Gus was looking at stuff like this guy's, he schemed us up so well. He's a true offensive savant genius, and he's it's amazing in college football who wins and who doesn't win. One day I'd love to write a book about it. I got to wait for Gus and Freeze to die to tell their stories probably, but like Chad was the most organized of all of them. He was the best recruiter of all of them. He cared about the kids the most. I mean, he did so many things right, and you lost every game. Like we stunk. We laid like the biggest golden eggs of all time. Whereas Freeze could get away with golfing 3 times a week, and he manages his time well, and he calls plays well. He loves the kids. He does things differently, and you win every game. And there's so many different ways to win. I've learned in college football. Sonny Dykes, I was with him for a short time at SMU, but like being friends with him now, not friends with him by any means, but following him around, he does it way, way differently than Gus does. I mean, you can win in a lot of different ways. It's just getting the right component of the kids know you care about them. You can get good matchups. And you hire the right staff. I mean, the culture stuff, it all matters. Everything matters. But, like, man, the kids got to know you care about them. You got to have the right people around you. I mean, you see so many coaches like Beelan at Arkansas that have good staffs that end up not doing well. You have that staff, and then if you know the game and can situationally manage it, you got a chance. And Gus and Hugh were really, really good at that.
All right, I got a couple of Gus questions. We get into some NIL, and I got some other stuff.
Yeah.
I got a ton of stuff for you. All right, do you get to go to eat at Waffle House with Gus after the games? Because he's known for the Waffle House thing. Or is that like an inner circle? Is that like an inner circle, only him and his wife?
No, I'm going to put Gus out there a little bit. Hopefully it's going to be like some viral clipped up. But he actually quit Waffle House.
Really?
UCF. Yes, here for UCF. The CEO of First Watch, Chris Tomaso, is our guy. He's a UCF guy. Helps us out in the NIL front a lot. And just a good person. His daughter interns for us. Malia, his kid's the manager for the basketball team, now works the Rays. I mean, he's a great UCF guy. So we kind of support First Watch. Once a year, they usually open up at night for us. We do a big fundraiser, that kind of thing. And it became that way because the Waffle House started like stacking the deck against Gus. He would tip well, right? He was a head football coach. You go in there and you go $100. Well, the Waffle House, employee staff went from like 4 to like 18 when he would go in. And it's like, is Waffle House worth me spending $2,000 after every win? Like, I don't know. Like, it's not that good. So I think it went from being like a funny high school football thing that he and Chrissy did because they couldn't afford it, and that was like a celebratory, man, this is the best, to at Auburn it was like kind of keeping that tradition. And now he's like, do I want to spend, $20,000 this year on Waffle House? I don't think so. So he got to UCF, and he's put it behind him, and we've moved on. So he's finally quit it. Waffle House still great. Smother covered, I get it, but he's out on Waffle House.
And one other last Gus question I got. So I heard some rumors, and confirm or deny, but he innovated the SEC offense so much that other defensive coordinators were passing around ideas how to stop it, like group thinking on him. I mean, if that's true, you know you're pretty damn successful if all the other teams are ganging up on you.
Look, that league, the SEC, man, it's a different breed. It really, really is, and it's good and bad. There's good parts about it and bad parts about it, and obviously Gus knows way better. But he's yes, 100% true, 1,000,000,000% true, and he'll tell you who they are, what they are. He's on it. You don't forget names. But he knows. Even our first year, I remember looking with some job openings, and he was talking about some guys from Tennessee. And I was blown away by their offensive hype that first year at Tennessee. I mean, I think Heupel does some really, really good stuff, and he seems like a really cool dude from everyone at UCF that let them. So I'm following him. I kind of like to keep up with them, what they're doing, and I have some buddies that work there. Mackenzie Milton played here. It was really good. So I like to follow them some. And Gus said that first year, he's like, man, give this league one offseason of figuring out those wide splits and then judge Tennessee. He's like, he's doing things that no one's ever seen in the league before this, but that league, where they've never seen it, they devour that stuff. And I think Tennessee is still really, really good. But that first year, no one could figure it out. I mean, nobody could. And you look at last year, teams stopped them. They're still super effective, and they're going to be good and have a good team. But if you give SEC analysts and coaches a full offseason of something new, they will scheme it up and figure it out. And you truly have to have better players and play the best to win that league, because you can't just out-scheme people in that division.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. Well, he had a hell of a career there, and obviously looking forward to following Central Florida. Some other stuff I want to ask you. So you were in what the athletic administration side of it. Obviously you're in a different world now running NIL. Do you enjoy doing the NIL more? They're completely different jobs. Where are you on both experiences?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot more like drinking bourbon and playing golf, which I like. You're doing a lot of wine and dining, and it's cool to be able to talk to you at 10:30 a.m. on a weekday, not have to be in the office and have 4 staff meetings and do all that stuff. So it's different. I mean, I enjoy it because you're building the plane as you're flying it, and I'm competitive, and I like to be do things differently. I love being around the kids, man. That's why I got into college sports. I wanted to be the guy they went to for problems. So I didn't feel like I had a great person in college for that. And we have great kids for all the knocks on Florida boys and Florida players and college football. Current day and age, we got 99% of our not just football, I mean basketball, baseball, any players I interact with, we have really, really, really good kids at UCF. So I miss that part about being the day-to-day. I love that. But there are definitely benefits of the NIL side. And I want to be an AD ultimately, so I needed kind of fundraising experience and help me get out to do that. But I do definitely miss being kind of in the grind, from time to time.
So at Central Florida, obviously there's a balance now with the transfer portal and recruiting high school. How do y'all manage that?
Yeah, we're pretty split. Gus has been pretty set on recruiting high school kids. I don't think he wants to get away from it. We're obviously Florida's so talent rich. We have some of the best high school players in the country. I think the best high school players in the country, and good programs. So we still sign a lot of high school kids. I think the difference now is we don't reach on that maybe 3-star kid you're not certain about that you thought could be a development guy. We don't take that kid anymore because there's too many good ones in the portal. But we'll still sign 20 to 23, 22 high school players at least. And then, portal for us is more need-based because we're not going to go outspend, your Ole Miss Rebels in the portal every season. We can't do it. But can we go all in on KJ? Can we go all in on a receiver that we need and then pick off 4 other spots to backfill roster? Yeah, we think so. So, and plus, Florida's a great spot for you guys to come back home. Yeah, you're from Orlando and you tried to chase it. You chased a bag at USC. You chased a bag at Ohio State. You did this and this, and you didn't play, and you still tell me, come on back to UCF. We got you. So we're a great portal destination for location and opportunity because other guys have transferred in. And we took, of our 5 Big 12 Media Day players, all 5 were transfers, which is insane.
Well, it makes sense, though, because Central Florida, like you said, Orlando's a fun place to go. You got a fun brand, and you can get – with this transfer culture, y'all can get the 4 and 5 stars out of the SEC and stuff that, are back up. You can – I don't know. It makes a lot of sense, but it's just got to be so interesting, the balance of that in high school, because a lot of times if, you hit on a good high school kid and he does well his freshman or sophomore year, then the SEC is going to come out – I don't know.
100%.
So you have to –
yeah.
You have to re-recruit. It's fascinating to me that you have to re-recruit your kids every year while they're playing on your team. I can't imagine having to do that when you're coaching.
Absolutely, you're on it. And that's when we started the Kingdom initially. The thought was we gotta retain our best. We can't retain our play. We get it because the SEC can call. Can we retain our best guys and then fill need base? Now we're getting a little more competitive. We're raising some money. We got some cool things going. Our AD Terry Mahajer, thankfully, is super aligned and helps us out a lot. So we feel like we can retain most all of them, but that's the big fear. Certainly, if someone has a really great year, like, oh man, this is too good of a year. Like at the end of the year, like drop a pass, miss a kick, do something. We're not going to be able to afford you if we can't do it.
It's just such a crazy, wild world with that. Well, so like you're in the NIL space, obviously. Like, how creative? You just try to get real creative with fundraising. I mean, I'm sure you play golf with a lot of boosters. I know I had a lot of fun with y'all being up here. Y'all had a really, honestly, because I think of Central Florida. I think of that as like a big. It's a huge school. Y'all have like 60,000 enrolled. But I think of it as like a regional Florida school. But y'all have a big hospitality thing. So like, I was really impressed with the Chicago turnout.
We had a great time in Chicago. One of our biggest boosters, Taylor Gearing's from up there, and he wanted to go up there and get that alumni event going. We did. I think it's growing. We have to do things differently. We kind of joke we're the Oakland A's of the Big 12, and Simon Flum, the guy that runs the Kingdom with me, and I all the time. That's kind of our motto. And if we go fundraise like Ole Miss and we go fundraise like Alabama and Georgia, we're going to lose to them. We're going to get smacked by every recruit. We can't out dollar for dollar. Alumni Florida State raise money. So we do a ton of, shtick events, and we're a little transactional because NIL's transactional, and we try to do things differently. And we have to engage someone that's between 30 and 38 to get money from. That's tough. I'm
because y'all are younger school. One thing about Central Florida is it's not like y'all don't have a lot of like rich 60 and 70-year-old alumni.
Oh, whoever has my job in 10 years will love it because they'll all be rich 60 and 70 years old. We're just not quite there yet. So we're creative, and our creative team at UCF. The content guys, Eric DeSalvo and his team, have like laid the groundwork and engaging those people incredibly. So we get to do a ton of creative stuff that other places can't do. And the next week, like 7 days, we got ladies' night tomorrow, and we're super involved in that. We'll make a lot of money doing that with Foreman, with Christy. We'll have a town hall at a buddy's bar, gives us free beer, and AD will come talk, and we'll just do Q&A, and we'll make it's just like doing things that maybe a traditional AD wouldn't want to do on a Wednesday night, going to a happy hour with 100 people. Like, we got to do that a lot, and we get it done. I mean, it's going pretty quick, and if we can stay relevant in this next edge of college, or this next merger of college football, and I think you're going to see some teams fall by the wayside. They can't do the revenue share and can't compete in the biggest scale. And if we can make that cut, then down the line we're in a big TV market with a lot of young alumni with a cool place to live and play. So I think for all of our sports, they got a chance.
Yeah, well, I'm curious too. Also, y'all have got a social media, Central Florida. You see, it's wild seeing how important social media and the brand stuff is. Because now with the recruiting and NIL, you got to be like the hot program to get these kids to want to come. I know y'all have got a social team. Like, what kind of emphasis y'all have on that?
Oh, the most. 17-year-old kids. Crap, man, I'm 31. I still do it, but they buy with their eyes. That's Chad Morse line. They like what they can see. So if we can put it out in front of them and a good brand, our fans on social media are. It's tough. If they're active. You look at your average age alumni is 39. They're all on social media. So, but that makes it great. It makes it fun, and we can do quick stuff and push things out so quick. It's crazy to have an event and just be able to post on social media and go, that's all we got to do because everyone's going to see it. You don't have to send the mailers out and the emails out, and it's a great spot for. I think we went viral. I think a couple months ago for doing you had to donate to kill a song or play a song. It was Frankie Valli's "I Love You, Baby."
Okay, 4 Seasons.
And, yeah, we played it at games for a while, and some fans loved it and some hated it, and they were talking about what should we do. And I think it was a guy who works for UCF, Jimmy Shiles, was like, "Why don't we vote for it? We can make it a fundraiser." And so we did. So we hey, if you want to have a song in the stadium, give us this much money. If you want to not have it, give us this much money. Let's see what's working. It was like $30,000 on a social media.
Dude, I would love that though. If I was a fan and I was rich, I would love to be able to control the DJ for the stadium. I could just promise you, like my only thing would be just I would just give like $20,000 for people to quit playing Sweet Caroline. I would like.
Oh my gosh.
I would give so much, and dude, I get so much crap because Ole Miss plays it at Swayze, and like I'm always hating on it, and people are just like, "What's wrong with you?" And I'm just like, "No, what's wrong with y'all?"
I agree.
It's just the most burned out song in the history of mankind.
Oh, it's terrible.
But yeah, it's the worst.
But I'll tell you, I thought that about Friends in Low Places too until I was out in Vegas last week. I'm like, they play us too much. And when Garth first came out and closed the Friends in Low Places, I went with Coach Malzahn. I looked at him like, is there a better 4 minutes in your entire life than what just happened? He's like, no, man, that was like life-changing stuff. So sometimes if you're in the right setting, if you're in Fenway, maybe Sweet Caroline hits differently than when I'm used to it. But I'm with you on that.
Okay, well, I want to ask also, obviously, you're from one of the first Ole Miss, I know your folks, huge Ole Miss family. Obviously, your sister and parents, both big Ole Miss people. Your dad, the Tuohy Center, the basketball center is named after your family. Obviously, he had a great career at Ole Miss, and they're still super involved. You went and played basketball at Loyola, Maryland, right, in college.
I did.
Did you ever consider going to Ole Miss, or you knew you just wanted to do something different?
Man, I wanted something different. I kind of want to get away from the whole shtick of everything that happened. If I was taller and more athletic, and I'm sure I would have liked to play at Ole Miss. I love Ole Miss. I like going back there. But I'm working on degree number 3. None of them are from Ole Miss. I think people always say Ole Miss system. I didn't go there. I can appreciate it. Yeah. I think that my dad and Mike and Collins and my mom all had their legacies at Ole Miss and were so successful. And my dad, on my birthday, July 4th, he made all my college teammates in town we watched the Georgia SC championship run over Dominique Wilkins and these guys at LSU, and I think we forget how good he really was there. And but it's great for him. It's great for them. I love him. I support him. I like going to shoot the Tuohy Center. I loved Kermit. I like the current guy. I like everyone's been there. Andy Kennedy was great to me. It wasn't for me. Chris Beard's talking to me. So I
respect that though, because you grew up so much around it and you wanted to do your own thing. I actually went to Ole Miss to not go to LSU to do something different from Louisiana. Man,
Loyola had a guy named Jimmy Patsos who I will write a book about one day, but I legally have to wait. I think he made me sign a thing until he dies. He's probably the most. If you're an East Coast basketball guy, you know him, Jimmy. And he recruited me to Loyola, and we were really, really good when we first got there, and he had it rolling. And it's just a place you want to be. I remember the first phone call he ever called me in high school. We just beat St. Benedict in football, beat him in basketball. And he called me and said, "Are you hungover?" That was his first question. I'm like, "No, sir, I'm not hungover." Saturday morning, I'm good. And he's like, "Oh, then you're not for us. You should have partied. That's a big win." I'm like, "Oh, wait a second. I went out. I had a good time, my boys." So this is a guy I know I want to play for a guy like that. We win, we party, and man, we had it rolling for a while. So that's why I went up there, and no one's ever heard of it. I just tell them it's a sister Jean Loyola, or if they like lacrosse, they'll know it. But it worked for me. Loyola and SMU.
Okay, and I also want to ask, so your childhood, how different was it? Y'all are Memphis family, Christian family, very successful, all that. But then the Blind Side happened, and how different was what was that whole thing like? Just how different your life was after it.
Yeah, man. We talk about the Blind Side came when I was 16.
You were 16.
I was 15 when it came out. Yeah, so that's when I'm 30. 16 years ago now. Which is the worst time. A sophomore in high school is the worst time for that to happen to someone, to get an inflated, ego of the world, and I'm sure it was the biggest tool in high school of all time. So I think it is life changing in some ways, and in other ways it's not, because we don't really know any different. It just kind of, you lived it, right? That wasn't a big moment change. I didn't really appreciate how big it was until I left Memphis and went to Baltimore to school, that you're oh, people still know what this is. In my head, it was very regional, and I didn't really know any better. I was playing high school sports and being a weird kid, and I had no idea that it mattered outside that bubble. So it's different. We try to be positive and promote the platform. Everything that's happening, and I think that some people like the movie, some people don't like it.
I thought overall it's a massive. I feel like it's my take on it was just a massive success, and when you're that successful, there's always going to be some haters, just no matter what you do in life. But it was
I watched it at the premiere, and I watched it with a girl that I thought I was going to marry, and I'm like, we're going to watch this one time. You can ask all the questions you want to ask, and then
never mention it again.
And I ended up marrying. I'm like, I wasted. I had the best story. I've only seen it once. I was always my shtick, and so now I have to say it twice. But yeah. People that hate it, man, I can see why. People that love it, that's good for them. I can see why too. So it don't really bother me either way.
Okay. Well, what was it? I don't know. It just is. It's wild how big, how big it was, and I'm sure. I guess that's interesting though. I guess when you got out of Memphis, you realized how big it was, because when you're in there living life, it's just life.
I was playing sports. It was I was high school football, I was high school basketball, then it was high school baseball, and I was doing stuff. I didn't know any better. The most I traveled was Magnolia Heights, Mississippi, right, to play. A basketball game, or to Nashville to play football. I don't know what's going on outside that bubble until you leave it.
How accurate was how much did they change up in the movie? How accurate was everything?
Oh God, half maybe. I don't know, less. You're condensing a lot of years into a 2-hour deal. I think it's as accurate as any book based on a movie that's based on. I mean, you start playing the telephone game of what's changed and what's not, and it is a made for Hollywood deal. But there's parts that you're like, oh crap, that really happened. Oh my gosh, I forgot about that. And there's parts that you're like, what is this about?
Okay, yeah, that makes sense though. I mean, that's Hollywood. Like overall, I mean, I'm friends with your mom and your family too. That's had to have been a crazy existence on Earth since that for her. I mean, I'm sure she's enjoyed it more than not, I would think.
She doesn't live on Earth anyway. She lives in her own reality. So
that's fair.
Her existence on Earth. I mean, she is in Leanne world, and it's a population of one, Leanne. So you can't get her off of that reality, and Earth waves goodbye to her way before the blind side.
Okay. Fair. Well, I respect that. I respect that. And SJ's sister was 2 years younger than my sister and KD, and so they kind of all know each other through the old Miss ties. Well, okay. So going forward, you got rest of summer. You're just doing fundraising stuff, just getting ready for the season. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, we're trying to. We're following all this legislation and seeing what happens and figuring out how we can adapt. I think that there's going to be a lot of changes in the NIL world in the next 6 months, and thankfully we're pretty flexible and getting to see what works and what doesn't work, but. It'll be a wild college football season. I think it's going to be wild for collectives on a whole different note. So yeah, we're stockpiling as much as we can, having some good times until then, and then hoping that Gus goes out and wins so we can fundraise off of it.
Yeah, okay. I want to ask what changes for what you're referring to. I know there's some stuff going through the federal government. What changes are you referring to? You think that are coming?
Yeah, so the House settlement coming up. They say it's going to be settled a year from now in July. And that would basically provide revenue share for the players. So the schools will be able to fund, their NIL rights, which is great for the players in the sense it's going to be a lot more money. It's going to be very structured. It's great for the coaches and teams because there should be a salary cap and it's based on it. There's just a lot they need to work out between now and then of antitrust exemptions and Title IX exemptions and how it works for different places and state laws and I think there's a lot of errors in the past that things could shift a lot, but I do think that hopefully they figure it out by then, and it's not just kind of a rush deal like it wasn't to get into NIL because if they don't change it at all, it's not going to fix the problem, which is, again, problem is subjective, but I think they're on the right track to getting stuff figured out, and I know that RAD and I and my board, Tom McNamara and Kevin Widger, guys of the Kingdom, who do a great job advising me and our legal team, and Joe McClellan, the Greenspan and Martyr, I should give them all shout outs. Hopefully they see it. We have a lot of good advice coming in, and we're just going, all right, what are our teams doing? What's working? What's the most we can do compliantly and legally because we're in a pretty flexible spot. So I'm excited to see how it plays out, and we'll make the best of it kind of at UCF regardless of what it is and pick what works.
Yeah, what's so fascinating to me on it, and I know Central Florida isn't like this, and some schools are, and I'm not going to name any, but it's like, are these contracts legally binding because it's not regulated? Like, yeah, that's the whole thing. Like, as you see, these schools will promise the moon, but, like, are they actually going to pay what they're saying?
Yeah. There's some bad dudes there's some bad guys in our business, man. There's a lot of great guys. Walker Jones at Ole Miss does a great job.
Oh, no doubt.
Does a great job. And there's guys who are in it for the right reasons, that love the kids, that do a really, really good job. There's other schools that do a disservice to kids everywhere, and it's a shame, man. And you see some of these stats and data from the media that we had a kid, I don't want to call him out by name, but we had a player transfer to a Big Ten school to he'll probably start there. He's a good player. But he sees all this data from these guys. Oh, the average Big Ten safety makes up $240,000. I'm going to go make this much money. Like, no, man, that data was skewed because it was only via people who are on the software and see it. And then the collective lies to you about this is what they're going to pay you. And they just lied to him. 100% lied to him. And he was making X amount here. He goes there thinking he's going to make $50,000 more than that at a school who's very similar to us, but he kind of was competing for playing time here and there, going to be the guy. And I'm like, now I'm going to get paid more to have less competition. And he goes there, collective 100% lies to the kid, and you tell me any money. And that's a sad tale that happens a lot in our space. So, get things in writing. And some of these agents are so predatory. They're locking 17-year-old kids into their NIL rights for 4 years and future NFL earnings. And we have some bad dudes that are agents. So I think picking the right help and making sure you have you don't sign anything binding with agents, and then making sure you're going to a school that's not shady, because there are some. But yeah, we think they're legally binding. I mean, our contracts are there's clawbacks, buybacks like you would in the NFL if a kid transfers midway through this contract, and we're going to go after that money. And we feel like it is, and we're going to have it happen once where it's gone to that point that it worked out. But most kids will settle with him for a next dollar amount because we don't want to. If a kid don't want to be at UCF, we don't want him here. I think others collectives feel the same way, but they did make a commitment. So we think that they are really good. We're not doing the Georgia stuff like finding them quite yet. We're not in that space, but
I don't feel like y'all have as many car driving problems either, though.
But I'm sure we got our own problems too. But I think that's probably the future of it. You're going to treat them like pros, and you better behave like pros.
Yeah, so are these deals, most of them are 1 year, I think. I mean, because I know some schools, I heard a lot of stuff, the schools will offer like 3 and 4 year deals. They're like, oh, we'll give you $100K the first 2 years. We'll give you $500 the third year.
Yeah.
Knowing full well there's no chance in hell they're going to be paying this kid $500 with it not being legally binding.
More than a 2 year deal that guarantees the shadiest place in the whole world. Don't do it.
Okay.
Because you don't know what the laws are going to be and what your roster is going to be. Like, what if your quarterback leaves? You got to spend money there. I mean, even plan to more than so. Most of our contracts are a year, January to January. Usually our term length, unless it's a June to June, occasionally, which is flexible because when the season's over, allows you to renegotiate, for the next season, and we like that term length. We have a couple in some of our non-revenue sports, like women's basketball or baseball, that a kid comes in as a junior transfer. We'll do a 2 year deal with them just to lock it in because maybe the numbers aren't as big, and they want more stability with their roster stuff. So we have a couple 2 year contracts. I don't think we have any for football currently. So, but yeah, mostly 1 year deals.
Okay, and the last thing I got on the NIL is just I feel like the quarterback thing has to be different than it's almost like its own world. Like the quarterback market, like I'd love to see. I know it's not all out in the open yet, but like I would love to see a documentary or something on just how the quarterback free agent market works because it's
100%. And
it's
there's
just
so many
crazy.
There's nuances, Mintzy, that you probably don't think about. But like if you're I'm going to call out somebody who's it's not their fault. I'm just picking Georgia. And you're going to recruit a freshman quarterback. Okay, I'm going to pay you, Mintzy. You're a Johnny 5-star. I'm going to pay you $500,000 to come to Georgia as a freshman. Knowing that if you start, you're going to make $1 million. Our starter makes $1 million or $800,000, like $700,000, whatever. All right, so we're going to get you here. And I know you're not going to play, Mintzy. I'm not going to play. This kid above you is making $750,000 he started last year. So now, year 2, when it's time to renegotiate, and you go, hey, I'm ready for my $500,000. And you say, no, actually, you're going to get $100,000. And the kids go, well, wait a second, I made $500 as a freshman. Yeah, well, that was to get you here. Now you got no tape. You haven't played. We're going to tell people you had a bad spring, bad practice. You weren't a good practice player. No one's going to pay you $250,000 in the transfer portal because you didn't play. Instead, they're going to take the kid from FAU, from Charlotte, from Rice, from wherever that went out and balled. The Cam Ward at Washington State or whomever at James Madison. And we're going to pay that kid $500,000 because he played. And he's going to come transfer over you, and now you make $150,000. So now you have to go to I don't know, South Florida or to FAU for $100,000 because you didn't do it. When really you're probably better off going to Georgia Tech for $200,000 as a freshman and maybe get on the field and competing. So there's so many things these kids that they get. I mean, that's a big logo. That's a big dollar amount. All right, well, who's on the roster? Who's above them? Like, go where you can play at that position. Because once you go in the field, man, them transfers are the ones that are getting paid at quarterback. Unless you're Arch Manning, unless you're, true, the best player in the country.
No, that makes sense. I mean, it definitely does. And you've seen, like, the G5 has become such a feeder to the Power 5 because if it's the playbook is clearly go star for a year or two. And that's what Ole Miss has done in the portal. They take all these 21 and 22-year-old guys that are all, American Athletic Conference or CUSA or whatever. Yeah. And you get these 21, 22-year-old men that have experience to come in for a year and just, I don't know. It's just the whole thing's
think about a kid, like we're talking about Chad Morris. Think about his kid, Chandler Morris, who's like an elite quarterback. I mean, really, really good. He got banged up at TCU, but
going to North Texas now, right?
Yeah, he's at North Texas now. So he goes to Oklahoma out of high school and plays, tore a touchdown in the Big 12 championship game. So now he's found his way to North Texas. Man, that kid was could have been a starter in the Big 12, but a starter at Oklahoma. So now UNT has that caliber kid. Like, that's why there's more parity now than probably before, because everyone's got a quarterback, man. If you got a quarterback, you can win. I mean, Chandler Morris going to play, I don't even know it, SMU or a bigger school in Texas. I don't know, like a Baylor. And their starting quarterback is hurt at Baylor, and Chandler's healthy, they're going to beat them. If you have a good quarterback, you can beat anybody. And so if you're going to play some of these big time teams as a team that's maybe not as good even in league, but you got that transfer quarterback and maybe they're not healthy, like you can win in this day and age now in football. So whoever has the backup quarterbacks at the most elite levels, which is where we kind of missed, I think, that first year. Mikey was a freshman; he's really really good now at Fresno State, and Timmy's gonna have a great at Arkansas State. But unless you're prepared to win games with your number 2 quarterback as an elite team, man, it's like an insurance policy now because everyone transfers. So if you got to overpay for a backup to win.
Yeah, and the final thing I'll touch on is just how much it's affected the high school recruiting. Because I feel like, back in the day, you'd see your Bama, your Georgia, you're getting all your 5-stars and stuff. But now, you see a school like Ole Miss that, pulls good top 20, top 25 classes, but doesn't get like top 5. But when you get these transfers, you got 22-year-old men out there against 18 or 19-year-old guys, even if they're 5-stars. Like the maturity level is so different in those years.
Yeah, it brings back the value of, I know we joked about Hugh Freeze earlier, but like, can you coach it? Can you coach the kids, right? Like you're gonna have a chance to win games now with some of these transfers. So it's not just lining up and having the best players at Alabama anymore. And I think it's good for the game in a lot of parity ways. It's obviously bad for the game and things that it's done. And I'm nervous for the next iteration of high school players coming through, what they expect in terms of money and all that stuff. But man, there's a lot of parity in the country across football this year. And I can see 15 different guys win the Heisman. I'm always on Dylan Gabriel, but there's 15 guys that can win it. The SEC, man, you wouldn't be surprised if Ole Miss won, if LSU won, if Alabama won, if Georgia won. I think everyone's crapping on Florida for having a hard schedule. They got talent up there, man.
Dude, they weren't that bad last year. Their thing was, I know the record was bad, but they barely. I mean, they should have won that Missouri game. They allowed a 4th and 20. Man, they weren't that bad.
That roster is loaded. Same thing with Tennessee, and our league's the same, man. Other than like maybe the ACC, where you think maybe 2 teams could win that thing, man, the other top 3 leagues, there's some teams there's 25 teams who can make the playoffs out of those leagues.
Yeah, how exciting is it too for like a school like Central Florida, the 12-team playoff? Like y'all may do well in the Big 12, you can get in. I feel like it's just so much more fun than the 4-team thing.
I mean, you look at it, 9-3 doesn't ruin your season anymore. If you go 9-3 and one of the losses happens to be Sam Houston State, God forbid, or Florida. Your 2 losses in conference, you make the championship game, you win that, you're in. So I mean, it keeps you in it longer. Those week 11 games, week 12 games that used to be good games but don't matter. Man, they matter now, that's fun for college football.
Hell yeah. Well, I want to say this is really fun because it's like you've got such a good perspective running the NIL at Central Florida, but you also have a heck of a background because you've lived. You're like 31, but I feel like you've lived a lot of life in your 31 years with the journey you've had on Earth. But I really enjoyed getting to know Gus and Johnny Dawkins and y'all coming in the office, and I can't wait to follow. I'm going to try to get Coach Gus on here in the next couple weeks.
Your Johnny clip, man. That was like
it's working. I'm working on it.
That dude play basketball?
Man? Dude, he torched me in horse. Yeah, dude, it was unbelievable.
I don't know if you've told people yet, Mintzy, but there's a great content of Mintzy playing horse with
it's coming.
Dawkins. And the dude hadn't shot a basketball in like 8 years, and it looked like the most pure. Pure.
I grew up watching when him and Hersey Hawkins were the backcourt of the Sixers, the Barkley. I remember that one.
He's such a good guy, man. There's probably no one I cheer for more on campus than Johnny Dawkins to win because he's just an awesome person. They got a fun team coming this year too with Mikey Williams and JJ Taylor, some of those big names. Hopefully we'll talk about it in 6 months. You and I know when it's college basketball season.
Heck yeah, but it's getting ready to be football season now, and we're going full bore. Wake Up Mintzy's all football from now till football season. We're all over it. That's all we care about.
As it should be.
It should be. Well, SJ, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. This is a lot of fun. Shout out Dude Wipe, Stella Blue as always, and Moody for holding down the Fort Louisiana. Tomorrow, another huge guest, Tulane football coach John Summerall tomorrow. Going to be a fun one.
Ask Summerall about the Bear, Mintzy. Cole Hurd, the Bear. He's the X factor at Tulane, director of recruiting. It's our guy.
Okay. How do you know? We
hired him UCF. He worked for UCF for a while. He's really, really good. He and Joe Craddock was the OC there with SMU. They had good young staff down at Tulane. I'm sure that there's no surprise they're going to be good.
Oh, no doubt. Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much, SJ. Follow him on Twitter at SJ Tuohy, at Kingdom NIL. This is Central Florida NIL. Good luck this season. And shout out Dude Wipes as always for cleaning up some messes. We're going to be back tomorrow. Tulane head football coach John Summerall. Let's have a day, boys. It's going to be a great Wednesday.
Hey, Mintzy.
Thanks.